Well, hello everyone, it's Sharon here from the blog I Restore Stuff, and I'm so glad to be here with Essential Stencil doing some more stenciling projects today. So I have a whole lot of information in the description of this live, so if you miss anything today, don't forget to go back and check the description for links, for all the supplies that I'm using, any of that kind of thing. And if you are watching the replay, don't forget that you have a chance of winning an Essential Stencil prize if you type the word replay into the comments within 24 hours after this goes live. So I am so excited to see you. Hi Kathy, thanks so much for joining me today. We are going to be doing a few things. If you saw the description, hi Tracy. If you saw the description in the live, I've got about 3 signs on the go today, and I'm hoping to show you lots of different tips to do with napkin decoupage, to do with glazing, and stenciling tips in general. So we are going to start today with, and don't forget, 3 lucky prize winners at the end will be drawn out of our comments. Essential Stencil will choose some winners randomly throughout this live to win an Essential Stencil prize. And so there's that to look forward to. I'm starting today with just a board that I've painted in green. Now I've just used a Fusion Mineral Paint furniture paint in the colour Brook, and I have just painted it. It's very rustic. See, there's even some little nail holes and things like that. But what we're going to do is decoupage some napkins onto that. And I haven't got the exact napkins that I have because I've had these around for years, but in the links in the comments I have added where you can get some of these beautiful floral types of napkins. So there's a whole bunch of different sort of styles of napkins that you can decoupage with. Even some little teacup ones, if you can see those, all sorts of things. And so I've got one of my affiliate links for Amazon on there that you can look up if you want to. Or find your own at your local craft store or homewares store. There's often a lot there. The stencil sets we're going to be working with today are if you have them, you could stencil along with me. This is the Faith 3-pack set. So that comes with It Is Well With My Soul. It comes with Amazing Grace, How Sweet the Sound. And it also comes with this one here. Let's see if we've got it right way around. Yes, Holy Spirit, You Are Welcome Here. So that's our Faith 3-pack set. So I'll be working with that today. And Love Never Fails set, which is also a 3-pack set. It comes with Love Never Fails, We Love Because He First Loved Us, and He Restores My Soul. So 3 great verses there. And if you have not used this pattern set yet, the roses. Hello everybody, thank you so much for chiming in. Yep, a lot of fun projects on today. Let's see how far we go. Let's see how far we get. So I'm going to be doing something with this rose pattern stencil as a background on a charcoal board, and we're going to use the colour silver, well, metallic silver, to just create a sort of a background for that stencil there. So there's that. Let's get started with our decoupage right down here. And if you are joining, don't forget to say where you're from, where you're tuning in from. You guys are always from all over the place, and yes, thank you for sprinkling the love. If you are here for the first time, we love it when you share our lives so that other people can enjoy the project as well. Okay, so with the napkin decoupage, if you've never done this before, it's a lot of fun. I've actually cut this one up, pre-cut it so that I could be a little bit organised. And I'm using, let's see if I got this right. I'm going to kind of do this kind of a look. I've cut it off the side of the napkin here. You can see how long it was. It went like this. I've cut that off to sort of fit the side, and then I'm going to, I know it's not going to blend exactly, but I'm kind of going to put those leaves around about where these leaves, where there's a gap here. So that's my aim. Now the first thing I want to do is, and I pre-did this earlier because there's nothing worse than getting on a live and trying to peel the ply off, but there's usually about 2 to 3 plies on napkins. Hi Rhonda from Ohio. Thank you Patty so much for sprinkling the love and sharing this live with your friends or on your pages. Okay, so we want to just have the top ply of the set of napkins. So let's see if I did this up this end or the other end. I'm sure I undid it somewhere along here, guys. Here we go. So you can see there's actually 2 ply here and 1 ply right here. So we just want the very top ply of our napkins. And you can see my board is quite rustic. So that doesn't matter though. And I've chosen a colour in the background that sort of blends with the colour of this, because this does tend to be a bit transparent when you put it on. So it'll all sort of blend in. All right, I'm going to leave that one off and place this one down here. What I'm going to do is use Mod Podge, the matte. Now there's a lot of decoupage mediums out there. Oops, I've got it back to front. So there you can see Mod Podge. And all these supplies, I've got them up in the supply list in the description of our live. But you can just grab your Mod Podge or any transfer medium that you might have, and we're going to just work fairly quickly across the top of the board. And you want to do it fairly thin, not too thick, but it does dry quite fast. So I'm trying to get that without dribbling drips down the sides. I'm trying to get that along the sides as well. This is a great background for your signs. And as fast as I can, I'm going to try and place this down. Now, I don't worry too much if I get wrinkles and things, okay, guys? So let's not stress about that factor. I'm going to stretch it out to as far as I can across the board. And then, now most napkins will have this little area at the edge with little bumps in it. It's kind of where it sort of embosses the three plies together, but that can be just rubbed out with your fingers. And so see, we've got some little wrinkles there. That's all going to add to our aged effect. So don't stress too much. You want to be very gentle with it so that you don't tear the napkin. And we seal this again at the end. So while this is drying, we'll go on to our little second project and hope that dries. It's kind of not a real sunny day. It's a bit overcast here. I'm from sunny Queensland, we call it, in Australia. Big shout out to any Aussies who are watching today. Hi, look, Rain's from Michigan, Kim's from Louisiana. Hi, guys. Joyce Ann has all those sets that I'm using today. That's awesome. Excuse me. I hope that you're inspired to do some of these today. So I'm just sort of ironing out with my finger or my thumb some of those wrinkled areas. You just want it all to be sealed, I suppose, is what we're trying to do. And any of those lines, you know, where whoa, I nearly tore it. That bit's looking a little bit soft. And if you iron these out with your thumb, or press it out, you should get rid of those little bumps. Now, we are probably going to have a little bit of a line right here, not to worry, because hopefully our stencil that we put over the top will sort of take the visual eye away from that edge. So if you can see, I'm just kind of smoothing out any of those little bumps. All right, just going to scroll to see, oops, I'm missing half of the comments. Guys, I'm so happy. Someone says, pure happiness sprinkled here. Love these colours. That's great. Thank you so much, Brenda. Sprinkle the love, watching from Bismarck, Arkansas, in the backwoods country. That's awesome. Hi, Joyce. Yeah, it always makes her nervous when she takes the top layer off a napkin. Yeah, and that hasn't sort of gone down properly there, but we'll not worry about the wrinkles. Okay, so I'm going to set that aside as we start to work on our next little assignment, which is going to be using this lovely rose floral set. Now that comes in a 2-pack with this rose here. Whoops, I'm going the wrong way again. Sorry guys. That rose here and this one on the back. So you can see that they're slightly different. Looks like I haven't used this set yet, guys. Whoa. Well, we're fixing that today. And I love to paint furniture and upcycle furniture, so I do love the example that they've given on the pack here. Let me see if I can bring that up closer to you. where they've done it on a dresser, bedside tables actually, which is really cute. Used that. Okay, so I'm just going to use the top one here. I've just painted this in a chalk paint in a really slate dark grey colour, and it really lends nicely to the white that we want to put on top. But right now, that's what we're going to add this stencil, one of these stencils from this set later on, which is the Love Never Fails. All of these are in the description of the live. Just let me pop that in some water, guys. Forgot about that. You want to put your Mod Podge either in a plastic bag or in some water. Okay, so now I'm going to use some silver. Now you can get silver all sorts of places or any kind of metallic, but I just thought silver would look good on the grey, and all I'm aiming for is a really, really subtle effect on this stencil. So I'm just using Artisan brand of Alchemy Silver. That's an Australian brand, so you probably won't find it if you're in the US, but I sell an Artisan brand on my website. So just need a bit of paper. Look, we can use those old napkins that we just were getting rid of as a bit of an offloading station. So I've got the silver here. We want to just offload a bit. You can tape this down. It's quite a large and flat surface, so I'm just going to hold that there today. Yeah, Carla says decoupage is really popular lately, and she did it 30 years ago. There you go. So it's made its comeback. So it is quite a similar colour to the grey, but that's all we want is a lovely subtle background. Can you imagine this, the grey and then a silver on the front of a drawer set? That would look lovely as well. And I haven't had to load up my brush anymore. See, my stenciling motion is just kind of a swirly motion, and the reason I can do that without it bleeding under is because I've offloaded a whole bunch onto this little napkin here to get this gorgeous silver colour. It's starting to fade now, so now's about when I'll just dip that into the lid again, make sure I offload and sort of start where I left off, adding a little bit more on as we go. Oh, that one tended to fade a little bit more as we went. I might need to dip into the paint really soon because it's running out of silver on the lid. Gorgeous rose stencils. How many of you have done some work with these, and what sort of things have you put it on? It just makes a great background, or just a patterned effect for a sign. It would make a good art piece on a canvas. I can imagine using all the colours too. Let me just wipe that off on the side. Just scrolling the comments again, thank you guys. Essential Stencil has pinned some of those supplies onto the top of the feed there if you needed to know where to find everything, where to find the stencil sets. And you can always use my code, you know, to get 10% off your Essential Stencils. If you use, I forgot to mention that, if you're new, if you use any of the ambassador codes, you can get 10% off your Essential Stencils. So I'd love you to use I Restore Stuff. The code is right there in the top of the comments or in the description of the live. And who has seen the Christmas sets that you can pre-order? They are amazing, so don't forget to pre-order your Christmas sets. They should be shipping the 1st or 2nd of November, I can't remember the date. Essential Stencil will tell us. But Christmas pre-orders are now being taken, so don't miss out. They are gorgeous. All ready for your Christmas stenciling, sign making, putting some of those Christmas stencils on napkins for your Christmas decor, on your table, all sorts of things. Great fun. All right, let's see how that turned out on the grey. Wow, that's beautiful. I love it. So I don't know if you can see, yeah, you can see that shimmery metallic sort of a look. It may look a little bit just grey, but yeah, hopefully you can see that shimmer. Isn't that gorgeous? So that makes a great, beautiful background. We'll let that dry just slightly while we move on to our next one. Now, I'm just going to quickly rub that silver off my stencil. Oh, thank you, Connie. Doreen says even copper seems to be growing in popularity. Yeah, I remember copper was really popular about a year ago too, so definitely those metallics are having a lovely place in home decor, all of the things. So that just looks like a gorgeous sign just by itself, doesn't it? Or a beautiful art piece just on the board just by itself. Okay, it's important to clean your stencils. I've just got an old sheet as a drop cloth today on my table. So that usually will dry pretty quickly. It's almost touch dry already, but we will just leave it there a minute before we stencil our other stencil onto it. Hopefully that napkin decoupage will dry really quickly because it's looking a bit still wet. Never you mind. Okay, the next project that we've got going now with this one, I painted using some chalk paint, and if you're familiar with chalk paint, it can be a little thicker than ordinary household paint. It's a type of furniture paint, and this is a gorgeous pink colour that's a brand new colour about to be released in Australia for the Australian brand I carry, Artisan. It's got 2 coats on there, but you may not be able to see. I've kind of done a little bit of a texture on there because chalk paint's quite thick, and so with it you can add a little bit of texture. So I've done some crisscrossy look, which you may or may not see there on that. Whoops, sorry guys, are you still there? Hello? All right, I'm just trying to see the comments. Alrighty, so with this set we have got the Faith 3-pack set. We've got It's Well With My Soul. And I can't remember which one I was going to do on this one. Maybe Amazing Grace, and we'll do It Is Well With My Soul on the other. It's a bit hard to see. Oh, you can sort of see the stencil there. There you go. Trying to centre that there, and I'm going to use a dark colour. Now what I want to do because I did that textured look with the chalk paint, I want to create a glaze over the top which then sits into the grooves. But before we do the glaze, I want to add the actual stencil itself. So I'm just going to use a black to do that and pop it into a bit of a lid. Pour that in here. For some reason I'm not seeing comments scrolling, so sorry guys if I've missed some. I do like to go back after the live and answer any of your questions though, so if you do have any, pop them in the comments and I'll be sure and jump back on there later. Okay. Using a stencil brush again. Oh, we've got this old napkin here I can turn over. Make sure that's in shot. Adding a bit of black paint to our brush, and I'm going to wipe a lot of the excess back into there before wiping it off onto here. Once again, you can tape this down once your paint on your backboard has dried. So I'll just add a little bit of tape. Oh, my tape's turning into a bit of a mess. I'm going to add a bit of fluff via the cloth just so that it doesn't tape down too hard, because sometimes it can tape down quite a bit and you don't want the paint peeling up. Not that this probably would, but okay, just going to tape that down to the bottom. Alrighty, so I've got the black on my brush, once again just stenciling in round circular motions. And it won't bleed under because I've offloaded as much as I could onto the napkin there. Now the glaze I'm going to be using today is a black glaze, so I think that it will still stand out lovely even though I'm painting the stencil black, what it'll do is it'll hit inside the little ridges and texture that I've created with the chalk paint. So you'll actually be able to see that. It'll stand out more. Gives it a lovely aged old look. You can even distress the edges of your stencil, board, I mean. For some reason I'm still not seeing the comments there, so I'm so sorry guys. I might in a minute just see if I can switch to another browser window in case you have anything urgent that you need to tell me, like this isn't working, that I can't hear you, any of that. Hopefully it's all going to plan. Because I was asking about the Christmas stencils and see if any of you could see that, so I'm not seeing those. Let me just quickly jump onto here. Making sure my volume's turned off. And I might be able to see some comments that way. Just a little bit more coverage in here. You can see little bits that you've missed. And just grab hold of those. Yeah, see now I've found some comments there. So I might have to switch back and forth with that. Okay, so that's all. I feel like this side still it needs a little bit more. We really want that black to be strong because I'm doing a black glaze over the top of this one to show those chalk painted bits and pieces. All right, I need that black again. So what I will do is I usually just grab a little bit of plastic and wrap my stencil brush in the plastic, because if I'm going to use it for a second coat or something like that, or use it again, the black, then I keep it in a plastic bag so I don't put it in the water and cause it to be too wet. Okay, look how nice and sharp that turned out because we offloaded our brush. Yeah, Rose says, I always think of the beautiful old hymn when I see this stencil. Yeah, it's beautiful, isn't it? Ooh. Oops. Hi, Charlene says she's coming in late. That's okay. You can always catch the replay too, guys. If you missed any of the beginning, we've got 3 projects on the go today. If you have just joined us, and just going to clean this off really quickly, but you can see the Amazing Grace sign, and it has a textured chalk paint finish on the background, but you can't really see the texture. So I'm going to show you what glazing does, how to glaze. And you can glaze, I love glazing on furniture and little detailed bits. Oops, see what I did there? I pushed, got to be really careful of those little bits that will poke up. This creates a lovely stencil on my drop sheet here too. You can see that. Creating a drop sheet stencil. There we go. So that's all cleaned off, ready for our next time we use it. Come on, napkin. I started out, if you've just joined us, I started out showing you how you can do this napkin decoupage here, and that's sort of drying off, but that's okay. If it doesn't dry completely, we can still work with it. Okay, so this is now drying. Let's go on back to this one where we have used some silver on top of grey using that gorgeous flower stencil. Connie says, when will we know what the stencil of the month will be? I've seen them. I think they're actually on the stencilofthemonthclub.com site. If you go there, you can have a look. If you are in the Stencil of the Month Club, have you seen the November stencils? They're Christmas ones, and I am super excited to get that because they really look great. Yeah, Rhonda says they already revealed their November Christmas themes, so don't forget to check out that. And you can get, using my code IRESTORESTUFF, you can get 50% off if you haven't joined the Stencil of the Month Club yet. You can do that and get 50% off your first month. All right, here is the beautiful Love Never Fails set. And these are really a great gift idea, I think. These are lovely, especially if you know anyone who's had some really trying times during this whole season, this 2020 year. See, any of these would look... Now, what I do want to mention is I don't want to use the wreath on any of these. What I plan to do is just the words, because we already have floral, we have botanicals going on already, so we don't want to add the wreaths, but we just want to do that, you know, he restores my soul. We would do this, just the words in there. And then on the other one, we love because he first loved us. You know, you just want to use the words. The wreath would definitely compete with the florals going on in our silver background. So I think I'm going to do the He Restores My Soul verse, Psalm 23, verse 3. Okay, so what I don't want to do is get my brush on that wreath that's in the background there. So I am going to tape a little bit here, a little bit here. That's just to keep our stencil in place. I had some other tape here. Then I want to just add maybe just those bits where the wreath becomes close to the letters. So the wreath is close to the S here. Just going to tape that. Maybe a bit close here. I think that might be the only other place. Or the R, we'll just go for that just in case. Tape off that leaf there, just so that the brush doesn't accidentally hit any of those points. I'm going to use a white today for doing this one, so let's get rid of that napkin rubbish. We'll bring out the old newspaper. And I'm just using, again, a furniture paint. This is Casement in Fusion Mineral Paint. Just need to use the lid. And I might just use a smaller brush since we've got nice fine letters here. Just using one of the Essential Stencil 3/4 brush. I think that's 3/4 inches. Okay, so loading the brush up with white, I've got a lot right there, so I can dip back into that when I've finished. Not doing the wreath. I have to remind myself. I'm talking to myself here, guys, so. All right, let's see. Sorry, just trying to catch your comments again. Okay, round and round. Because I've offloaded the brush, I'm not going to get any bleeding under, but it's really important. If I still see comments from people here on Essential or in the Stencil of the Month Club saying I'm really struggling with getting that bleeding that comes underneath the stencil. And all I can say is practice, 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 and just offload. Oop, I was going to upload from that little blob here. Yeah, just keep offloading as much as you can. It's a lot easier to go back over it if you don't have enough paint on your brush than it is to try and get off those bits that bleed under and kind of make it look a little dodgy. So practice on cardboard or paper, or just even old boards if you want to, like the back of a board, and then you can always paint over it, right? Don't forget, if you are new to Essential Stencil, we give away prizes on our lives. So at the end, we'll be picking 3 winners. And I may need 2 coats on this because I can sort of see through. It's a little bit transparent, but I would rather do 2 coats than be too generous with my paint and get some underneath the stencil. We don't want that. We don't want that, you guys. Okay. Cindy says, I always tape. With my luck, it would move. And Connie talks to herself too. That's great, because I do that often. If you were here before the live, you would have seen me scurrying around, talking to myself, making sure I had everything I needed for the live. Because if you've seen any of my lives, there's often a time where I'm like, forgot that one thing, and have to scurry off and get it. So talking to yourself. I don't know, probably it helps our memories, right? That's my excuse anyway. You're embedding that information, you know? Who's with me there? Of course. Yep, less paint is better. Yeah, I am really loving those Christmas stencils, and I cannot wait to be able to show you some lives with those in November, coming really soon. I'm just going to do a little sprinkle over here because I want to add a bit more without start where I started, hey? I feel like it just needs a little bit more coverage. Hopefully I haven't got too much on my brush after all I've been telling you. To offload, offload. You can always have a little peek and lay it back down where you had it. And that's what I think I'll do. Just have a little peek now and see. And if I've messed up, like I said, it's just paint. We can always just... Ready? Is it a bit busy? I don't know. We could go a little bit bolder, I think, with the white. So I am going to lay it back down, but I'll let it dry a minute. And go back over it. So popping that down there. Still got my stencil brush, making sure it stays. Another way that you can make sure your brush stays wet is just by getting a wet cloth and just wrapping it just like that, right there. What I'm going to go to now is my napkin decoupage, and just, it's started to dry but not quite dry enough. But what I want to do right now, while it's kind of semi-dry, is I'm going to grab my sandpaper that I did have here earlier. Yes, I do. Just grabbing a little bit of sandpaper. Oops, sorry guys, your comments are going fast and furious. If you've missed any of the stencil sets that I'm using today, they are pinned in there, and also there's a supply list in the description of the live. Oops, sorry, can you see that? So what I'm doing now is just sanding gently. Can you see how I left that napkin off over the edge? And if I just sand gently, and I don't even know what grit this is, maybe a 240, 180, something like that. But just sand ever so gently on the edges. And it doesn't matter if you sand a little bit hard, because you can have some rustic edges, you know, that wood showing through from under isn't going to hurt anything. Gives it a lovely vintage vibe. Until that paper just sort of comes off there. If you missed that, we just used some Mod Podge to apply the napkin, making sure we're only using the top ply of the napkin. There you go, I can see a little bit of wood coming through. I may have had a bit of Mod Podge. I've got to be really careful not to put it on the Mod Podge. You've got to be careful not to get it on the sides, unless of course you want to decoupage the sides. There's that, you can always do that. You can do whatever you like, guys. You know that. I know you're all creative. Okay, this was just a very small edge, this one. And I hope that you just use these live videos as inspiration and just go create your own version of whatever, you know, whatever these stencil. You can find some gorgeous napkins, match it with some underneath paint colour that you might have lying around. I just used some furniture paints. There we go. Who else just throws the rubbish on the floor? We'll get that later, right? Should bring my little rubbish bin, we call it here in Australia. We should bring the rubbish bin over. The trash can, of course. I'm sure you know what I meant. Okay. I can still see that line. I'm not sure about you. Maybe if I hold that up closer, you might be able to see that line there. When do you decide to stipple or swirl? Sue asks. Good question. I just mostly swirl with my stenciling. Let's do the stenciling on top of this now. So even though that's not quite dry, I will just go over that with the stencil. Let's do that. Where did my stencils go? Here we go. So I used Amazing Grace. This time it's going to be It Is Well With My Soul. And I love that song too. So many beautiful words on here. I think I'm going to go with what I thought before. Yes, let's do that. Talking to myself again. Is I'm going to do a black shadow and then white on top. Hey? So, no, white shadow, black on top. That's what I am going to do. So we were talking about stippling versus swirling. And I usually start with swirling, but you saw me do some stippling before because I wanted to add more paint onto. I'm just going to hold this one because I'm not sure if that tape is going to maybe pull up some of that decoupage, so we'll just hang on to it. What was I saying? Yeah, I wanted to add more paint without getting it under. So stippling is good if you want to practice not... actually, I wasn't sure whether I'm going to put that leaf there. I might not, since it's got flowers and everything on it. Yeah, so stippling will just probably add a little bit more to your brush. Where's those tapes I had before? Oh, that's over here. No, I'll have to use some more. Let's see, is it going to work? Stippling will add a little bit more onto your stencil, I feel. But be careful, with the swirling you want even less paint on your brush. I was trying to get that second coat on that other stencil. All right, so I will be careful not to touch that little bit of the leaf. Now that just means that instead of having it centered here, I'm going to move that across so that the words are actually centered. You could get your ruler out, you could measure it. I'm just going to eyeball it, if that's okay with you guys. Okay, white, and this white. Oh, did I offload that? Oof, I don't know if I did that enough. We'll see how the white looks. If it looks great by itself, good. But I was thinking this could be a great shadow technique lesson, again, because you guys love that shadowing. Yes, Amber loves hearing the birds in the background, yeah. It's, what time? It's about 10:40 here in Australia. I can actually hear a rooster crowing. It's a little bit late in the morning, don't you think? It's 11 a.m. and the rooster's crowing. Don't know what he's thinking. Okay. Yes, it's springtime here, so the birds are out, and it's been raining a little, so, well, it's overcast. I don't know that it's rained quite yet. We've got, I don't know if you can hear that bird that's got a sound. He's like a storm bird, I think. Lets us know that there's rain coming, or a storm. Okay. Whoa, scrolling through, I am missing so many. Yes, plastic bags are great for holding your paintbrushes in. Connie's in full-blown Christmas crafting mode. Yes, and she can't wait for the Christmas stencils. Yeah, I've got a link there in the description of the live for you where you can pre-order the Christmas stencils. There are some amazing stencils there, and if you got your email from Essential Stencils, you would have seen those already. You can use my code IRestoreStuff. I think there's a bundle there still. I think the bundle's still available. That's actually saves you 20% if you buy the whole bundle of all 12 Christmas stencils in the set. And if you use my code IRestoreStuff, you get a further 10% off at the checkout. So that right there is enough to get you excited about getting Christmas stencils. Oh, seems like I've done a lot of stenciling this morning. My wrist is beginning to go, hey, are you going to stop anytime soon? Getting a little wrist strain, guys. Oh, it's okay. I'll live. All right, that looks great. But like I said, I feel like this is just going to be a shadow to make it pop. So when you've got something like a busy background or a floral background and you're doing stenciling, often this shadow effect can be a really good idea to just make the stencil pop. So let me lift that up, see how we go. Oh, that is actually quite nice, you know. I think that's lovely. It's actually popping out quite well. So you could just leave it like that. Oh, now I'm undecided. And again, we are going to be stenciling this again soon, possibly in that black colour. So I want to make sure that my stencil's clean, because if I went over with the black now, because I'm using it as a shadow thing, that's going to get a bit of the white mixed with the black. It'll kind of make it grey. So I'm going to kind of move off as much as you can. You can see that some of that's dried already. If it's dried, that's okay, but it's the wet stuff that will kind of make it blend and be turn out a different colour. So there are lots of tips that we're learning today or teaching today on this live. Now, that's pretty much dried already. So we can go over that with the black in a shadow. Well, let's see what our comments say. Are they saying to stop at that white or not? I don't know. Yeah, someone said, do you love the decoupage board as it is? Even without the stencil, it does look great, I know. But I will show you the shadow technique. Let's just do that. Finished with the white now. I can't remember if I'm using that on something else, so I'll just pop it in the wet cloth. And we will pop this as a shadow. So you put it on exactly where it is. And then I just slightly shift it. Let me see if you can see this. Slightly shift it to the left and then slightly down, oh no, up. Because we want the shadow to, the white is the shadow, so it's coming underneath. So we go slightly up and then slightly to the left. Let's do that. And then it will make it look like the light's shining here, the white is the shadow. I know shadows are usually dark, but hey. You can use a shadow effect with any colour, you know, on any kind of stencil. You can use it on pictures as well as words. So, okay, I've got my offloaded black brush, holding it down really still. Hopefully it's dried enough where it's not going to make it grey. And you'll see that that white just sort of outlines the edges of our stencil. You could always also do black on just the top letters and leave the bottom ones as is. Offload. And I'm doing a little bit, I kind of stomp it down and then swirl it gently. Holding still. Okay, in a minute I'm going to show you glazing on the other stencil that we did in this set, this same set, which is, I believe it's the Faith set that this one is from. So if you don't have that one already, they're super great for beautiful gift ideas, for signs. You can use the words and interchange the words on any of the Essential Stencil sets. And I just find the swirling method is quite easy and swift. Get some really quick stenciling done. Offloading. All right, nearly done, and this is going to create a lovely shadow on It Is Well With My Soul on a decoupage napkin background. So just if you missed it, I've got all of the supplies listed in the description of the live and where you can get certain things. The stencil set's included using my code I Restore Stuff, so you can get your 10% off Essential Stencils. And I think it's this Faith set. They had a limited number left, so you make sure you get those in quick. All right, ready? Ta-da! Okay, so see how that kind of pops a little bit with that shadow. Let me see if I can zoom it up. That is it as well with my soul. Now what you could do is do a little bit more distressing. What I do need to do is seal that all the way over if I let that dry. And seal that once again, wiping that off super quickly. Let me see if I can catch up on your comments. Thank you so much, guys. You're awesome. Thank you. And don't forget to join in on the comments because there's prizes up for grabs at the end of our live. Just got another little technique I wanted to show you. With glazing on our pink chalk painted sign. Okay, going to clean that off a little better later, but that is it as well with my soul. See how that really pops? So there's that. And I was going to do one more coat on that, this one here. So I just wanted to show you the glazing effect, and I'll add this to a plastic bag so it doesn't dry out. My white, because I need to use that. So I'm just using a charcoal black glaze. Now with glazing, all I want to do is grab a little bit on a brush. Glaze is the kind of thing you brush on, then you wipe it off, and it's left sitting in the grooves of your chalk painted piece. And if you missed it before, what I mentioned was the background here. I used chalk paint, which is very thick kind of furniture paint, and I did this crisscross motion so that hopefully you can see some of those brush strokes when I put this glaze on. And I have to have my cloth ready, just a second. And all I've done for a cloth is used an old cut up lint-free t-shirt. So cotton t-shirts are really good. It's just an old t-shirt sleeve. Actually, look at that, it's the sleeve. Just to use that for wiping back the glaze. So you have that ready. I've got my stencil all done, and I'm just going to simply brush on the glaze and then wipe it off. And don't be scared by what you see. So it's going to look really, oh my goodness, what's she doing? To start with. And let's just work in sections to begin. So what we're doing is putting the glaze right across the surface, and then we're going to wipe it back. You can always use, I'm just using a dry cloth, but you'll see how that just shows, and I might just add a little dampness. So you can just wipe a little bit more off. A glaze has a longer open time than like a sealer or something. So then you can see where it will hit the high points of the texture, is what I want to say. I'm just rubbing back a little bit more. So sometimes it's helpful to use a wet cloth, but the glaze sits in all the grooves. And I know some of you are going to say, oh, I love it without the glaze, but I just wanted to show you that technique to see how you can create an aged look on your signs and furniture pieces using some chalk paint and that glazing stuff. I do have a link, Amazon affiliate link in the description of the live for where you can get a glaze. Even if I haven't brushed it in all the crevices, you'll see I've using this wet cloth now, just blending it back. And then you can see where that stippling or where the cross hatching I've done with the chalk paint happens. You can see all of the different grooves. Let me see if I can zoom that up a little bit closer so you can see the textured look. So the glaze sits in the grooves and you're wiping back where it'll get past all the high points. Tony's asking what's the glaze I'm using. This is an Australian brand, but you can get, I've added a link to where you can get some similar in the USA, if that's where you're from, on Amazon. So adding that to the base now. And again, you can do all the sides too if you want to. I just rub mine off gradually, so you can always rub more off, but I start quite lightly and then I add to it. And I'm spreading the glaze around about, and see how you get a really lovely rustic look. You can wipe it back from areas where you want to wipe it back from more, and wipe it less where you want to wipe it less. So it's totally up to you sort of how much you can get. Let's see if I've actually got some glaze still on the cloth, and then I can add a little bit more into the sides here. I might add some more with the brush. It's called a glaze. So anywhere you see furniture glaze, just look that up and you can find some. This is a black glaze. You can get them all sorts of colours. You can also get clear glazes, and they're great because you can mix them with any colour water-based paint and create your own coloured glazes. So glazes are a fun idea for making backgrounds to signs and things. So I could have done this before I did the stencil. See all that rustic looking nail holes and things in the top there? So the glaze kind of sits in all those grooves. Yeah, like I was saying, I could have done this before I painted the actual stencil, but going over it afterwards doesn't really make much of a difference either. So just matching those sides there. Whoops, a little bit too much. You can see that's the end grain of the wood, and you get on those ends there. So that's the bright pink that we had. Now it's a real subtle, antique looking finish on that. So there you go, that's glazing. Feeling a little sticky now, but that's that. Now just finishing off my silver sign over here. So we've got our napkin decoupage, our glazing one. Pop that into the water. And I was just going to finish this off with white. Don't forget to leave a comment and share the live too, guys. That would be awesome. Our white. So what happened here is, I'll take that off and just show you again if you've missed this one. So I've done the silver background with the floral rose. I've done a white on here, but I want to actually do a second coat of that white. So I've got to be really careful to make sure that's in exactly the same position. I just want the white to stand out a little bit more on that silver or the grey background. So we chose silver on the grey because it's a nice subtle look. And now that that's dry, it's going to allow me to have a lot better coverage as a second coat. But remember I was saying it's better to do two coats rather than, two thin coats, rather than have too much on your brush and risk having that bleed under the stencil. So this is a good example of that. And I'll show you where I've done so far and the difference that it is between that and the rest of the stencil. So you can see that that white here is popping out a lot more than it was over here. Hopefully you can see that. So we'll just finish that off. Now there's a lot of fun things too that I could do to finish off that decoupage look. We could add like an antiquing glaze, which is like a brownish colour glaze to give it an antiquing look. Or we could just leave it as it is, but I definitely need to seal that. So what you would do is just grab your Mod Podge or any kind of wipe-on poly sealer and add a coat of sealer to your decoupage sign. You can add a sealer to any of your signs. I would recommend sealing your signs if they are chalk paint, but some of the mineral paints have a built-in top coat, so they really don't need sealing, but it's up to you because they are just sitting on the wall. It's not like you're going to give them heavy use or anything. So there we go. That's our finished sign. Ta-da! So I will wipe off that one in a minute. But we have our He Restores My Soul. Look at that. So that just pops a little bit more vibrantly than it did with just one coat of the white against that beautiful silver. Don't forget to pop your brushes straight in water. I'm going to do that now. And Essential Stencil is about to pick a winner for our live as I just switch this over and have a look at, see if I can switch back here. Hello, here we are. So Essential Stencil is about to pick some winners and hopefully I can see them. Gosh, my computer has frozen on one of these windows, so I'm not seeing them all. So we did. Here's what we went through today. It Is Well With My Soul. You can see the popping of that shadowing effect on there to make it really stand out against the busy floral background. What I will do to this is I'll seal that with some extra Mod Podge or a sealer. And we showed you how to use a glaze to create this lovely textured look on the background of your signs using these are the Faith stencils set, those two. And then He Restores My Soul is from the Love Never Fails stencil set. All the links to these are in the description of the live. Go up there, check out all the links for the whole supply list. I even give you the dimensions of the boards that I'm using today. So there's that. We also used the rose set. If you don't have that one already, use my code IRestoreStuff to get any of your Essential Stencils, and don't miss out on pre-ordering those Christmas stencils because they are amazing. Now I'm going to have to go and let me see if I can see. No, it's not letting me see. I want to see those winners, so I'm going to have to flick back over to here. And who are the winners today? Drum roll. It's my drum roll. Okay, congratulations, winners. I can see two of them. Sue, I'm going to try and say your last name. Sklanka. Did I say that right, Sue? Sue Sklanka, Deb Boyett Alexander, and Denise Flarhive Blunt. Okay, Sue, Deb, and Denise, you can email support@essentialstencil.com with your details and they will ship you out a prize. So those are our 3 signs we made today. I hope you were inspired to create something yourself today from those. And I'm Sharon from iRestoreStuff. I would love to see you over on my Facebook page. Follow me there. Or Instagram. Would love to see you on Instagram. I show a lot of behind the scenes stories and fun things like that. So would love to see you there. Also, if you missed any of these video tutorials, you can catch them on the Essential Stencil live section of their video section on their Facebook page or over on my YouTube channel, iRestoreStuff there. So I'd love to see you at any of those places. Thanks so much for watching our live today and I will see you next week. Bye. And now, sorry, here I am still saying bye.